Welcome to Meet You at the Top podcast with your host, Magda Wolski and
Elphi Bolombo. So as you guys know, Meet You at the Top is not a real estate podcast, okay? But we had to have these two trailblazers. They are the owners of Mortgage Savvy. We have Nicole and Rakhee. Welcome, guys, and thank you for having us in your beautiful office.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
So one of the reasons why we really wanted to talk to you guys and see what's going on in your business and personal life is because we want to know what it takes to have a successful partnership. So how did you guys start your partnership? Give us a little bit of a background on that.
Nicole, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, for sure. So Mortgage Savvy obviously was started back in 2015. Rakhee started that. I came on board about 4 years ago. I have to say, for me, one of the things with Rakhee is that she... you mentioned trailblazer. That is the biggest thing. She is sort of a force to be reckoned with. I wouldn't be her, honestly, without her. For me, it was a little bit different. I was one of those people that had to kind of really push myself to, that whole self-employed thing. I come from almost 20 years in the legal industry. I'm aging myself now. So, but
you look great.
Thank you. But it was that true partnership with Rakhee. Like, it's so hard to find your other half, whether that's marriage or business partner. We always joke around, we're like, it's like a marriage. You have to go through everything, and we've literally been through it all. But she has been amazing, and honestly, I couldn't picture doing any of this without her. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, for sure.
Beautiful.
Oh, I love that.
So if you guys are listening, they're both mortgage brokers. So we want to know, what are some factors in choosing a business partner? Like, what attracted you guys to each other? I know you just spoke very highly of Rakhee. What made you know that, okay, like, this is someone that I want to bring onto the Mortgage Savvy team, build together and create that partnership? Like, what kind of characteristics should people be looking out for?
So that's a great question. So when I started Mortgage Savvy back in 2015, I took on that typical sort of broker model where I recruited on the front end, and brought on agents. And we grew during that phase. So don't take me wrong. We had exponential growth in the industry. But what I realized is that my way of doing business was unique in the sense that I brought ease to the overall sort of transactional nature of the industry. I was able to alleviate the stress, and we built some really great relationships. However, there were components that were missing. We all have unique abilities, and that's where Nicole completes me. She brings the skill set to the table that they say hire better than yourself. And I think with Nicole, I immediately recognized that the moment she walked through the door. So when she came on board, we were a thriving business, but we were capped in terms of where we were at in terms of overall volume. So for me to, level up, I needed to have a strategic partner on board that was going to be able to fill those gaps and open up the door for opportunity for us to grow. And so when she came on board, that's exactly what happened. Where my skills are strong and where they're weak, she seems to fill in the gap, and vice versa. So together we had that growth. And now she started off as our operations director, and now I refer to her as my partner because there isn't anything that we've achieved that we haven't done together. It's been natural, it's been organic, and when it's real and you find your right fit, it's like dating.
Yeah. It's literally like you complete each other.
Yeah, the universe just had it aligned for us to come together and to continue to build the brokerage together.
I love that.
And I think it's so important. We do this so well where we often say we kind of divide and conquer, and we really, work in our unique ways, right? So in terms of, and it was funny because I think we've done so much better over the last couple of years where it really just has been us. And obviously we have a support team in the back end, but your sort of typical broker model where, you hire a bunch of brokers, like we realized that wasn't going to work for Mortgage Savvy. We are so focused on the relationship and that, service, that overall experience, that wow factor, and it's really hard to be able to trust somebody to be able to do that, right? Because Rakhee's always operated at on another level, and so for us to be able to do that, it was hard, right? So hard, I should say, to find other people to do that, right? So if you can scale the business accordingly, where you can have it work for you in the back end, and then we can be in the forefront, I think that's where we found our sort of sweet spot.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
What background do you guys come from? Have you guys I know you mentioned you worked for 20 years in a different field.
Legal.
Can you guys tell us a little bit more about where you guys came from, how you were like, yes, this is my purpose and my passion?
So when I started Mortgage Savvy, the intention, so I come from a finance background, however, not dabbling in mortgages. When I secured my first mortgage, I walked into a bank and knew nothing about what I was doing. Just for the record, you know, I was a business. I worked in corporate investment banking. My background is I have a BCom in finance. I also have my MBA in finance.
Wow. Damn.
I know.
And so that was my background, but it was more so corporate and investment banking. And then I realized after I bought my first property and I had my daughter and I was a stay-at-home mom, that I was focusing on building a future for her where I wanted to not only provide for myself, but I wanted to build something out for her. And I had built equity in my home and it was a no-brainer. It was like, why aren't other people purchasing properties and building a wealth building strategy so that you can have freedom? I wanted to travel. I wanted to live a balanced life, and going to work and working 12 to 14-hour days was not giving me the life that I wanted. So I thought, let me look at other vehicles that I can, you know, put into place to help build a future for my daughter. And that opened up to me calling up my bank and not getting any return phone calls, because in the end of the day, everyone is so transactional. I wanted to understand, how do I build out a model? So my model was 1 primary residence, 2 investment properties, and I chose to do 1 mortgage a month. That was my thing. I was going to work on my own portfolio and I was going to build through purchase, helping clients, you know, under these types of scenarios, purchase 1 property a month and do 1 mortgage a month. However, what you realize is that when you find a passion and you're able to effectively empower someone to change their life, they become a walking, talking advocate for you.
Yes.
And over the next, I'd say 3 to 4 years, it just grew. Mortgage Savvy was an idea. It was a business plan, and then it took on a life of its own. And I always feel like there's energy above that has, you know, allowed me to make impact. And with that, when I got to a point where I didn't know how to grow further, you know, that's where energy again opened up, and Nicole walked through the door to help me do that and take it to that next stage.
Amazing. And we will touch a little bit about motherhood and what it means to be a successful woman in business. But before we do that, I definitely want to know, how do you sustain this partnership and to ensure it lasts? Because I know there's many people out there who have had partners, myself included, in the past.
Hello.
That it didn't quite work out. So what do you do to ensure that it does?
I think honestly, it's again no different than an actual, you know, relationship, romantic relationship in that sense, right? You have to treat it the same. It's all about communication. We've gone through our you know, ups and downs where we, you know, tiptoed around each other, and we are the same at the core. This is why we work so well together, but we're so different in itself as well, right? So I think it was we definitely had to go through those phases where it just really is about communication. If we can, and we've had this over the years where we've had, you know, different parts of our team and there was, you know, discrepancies or, you know, just maybe challenges. And when we're speaking to each other and we actually communicate, we're like, oh, hey, we're on the same page. We're always on the same page, right? So I think that's where it really is. And just genuinely being clear about what is important to the other person, and, you know, finding a way to work with one another, right? That's one of the things I've you know, learned from Rakhee a lot over this, because I fell into this. I didn't honestly genuinely expect to be here in this capacity. And so I've had to take a step back and learn a lot from her, because again, you know, coming through, you know, corporate world and, you know, building firms and things for 20 years, I like to think, hey, you know, I've got this down pat, but the corporate world is very different, right? So I've had to take a step back and say, hey, just because I think I've done things so well for so long, I need to be open to new approaches. And that's one thing she's shown me on a regular basis, is just take a look at it my way, try it my way. And we can laugh about it, but I'm a bit of a control freak, right? So I'm like, hey, you know, it's hard for me to sometimes let that go and just try things new way, but she's been really good to just push me in that. And I think that's where, you know, when we're both open to trying each other things new ways, it works.
Beautiful. So I have a question. Yeah. So a lot of people, they come from corporate. Like, I quit my corporate job. I worked in an investment firm. I worked for HR. were you scared, like that transition?
100%.
Yeah.
It's I have to say it has to be the right time. And when I say the right time, I don't mean because if you're anything like me, there's forever going to be excuses as to why it's not the right time. But you have to be open to it. You have to be open to, receiving new information, new ways of doing things. Yeah. For me, I don't have, what we call a lot of fallback or, sort of that safety net for me. So it was really scary for me from, a financial perspective, from everything, right? Especially when you're trying to control stuff. And, in having these conversations, even with Rakhee, where it's like, well, you can't control everything. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, how am I supposed to feel safe, right? So you just, Rakhee will talk a lot about energy and putting things out there in the universe. And I really do believe that, right? So I think if you want to do well, you have to just, it's a mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Everything can be learned in terms of the actual technical skill, but it really is about mindset and kind of overcoming those fears. And I think that's what I've probably the most amount of work I've done is been on myself.
Wow. Absolutely. So like inner work, self-development.
100%. Yeah.
I want to touch on the energy. I know me and Magda are really big on energy too, and like doing our inner work. What can you tell me in terms of like certain mantras or just certain routines or things that help you energetically or kind of bring you that manifestation into your life? Because you guys are clearly both living your manifested dreams, I'm assuming, right?
Working on it for sure.
It looks like it. You guys are doing amazing. But what helps you? Like, do you meditate? Do you read? Do you write? Like, give me the tips and tricks. I want it. Give me it.
So I think it's my family background. I grew up, watching my family implement and live it day to day. So I'm very much about ensuring that I really do envision, daydream, focus on, what I'd like my life to be. Life's definitely had its challenges, but I choose to stay in the sunlight. I choose to stay in the positive. I don't allow moments to take away from that. I refuse to. Life is always going to throw curveballs at you. There will always be challenges. I also believe that life is pre-written. It's predestined. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
I love that.
With the lows, there are the highs, and you take things as they come. But what really sets yourself apart is walking into a room and bringing that energy with you. It's not about hitting numbers. It's not about conversions. It's really about being authentic in your interactions. And the only way to do that is to find a sense of inner peace, to find the silence within. So had you asked me even like 3 or 4 years ago if I was able to meditate or yoga, and I'd say absolutely not. I spin too fast in my head, but I've learned over the years, and maybe this just comes with age, you learn to get silent with yourself. And when you get to that place of finding that inner sort of peace, you automatically attract what is meant to, what is meant for you. Whatever is meant to be yours will be, and there is nothing that will stop that. So might as well just enjoy the journey.
Beautiful. I love that.
And Rakhee, you do exuberate this positive energy. So I totally believe it when you say that you always kind of carry yourself in that manner. And it shows. How do you manage your work-life balance? You've mentioned that you have kids and Nicole as well. Yes? Okay.
So I have a 11-year-old daughter that will be 12 in a couple of months. I can't believe that time has gone as quickly as it has. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that there is no balance. That what you see visually is me just finding peace with my current set of circumstances, but every day is a state of panic and chaos. But I just refuse to give into that energy. So there are times when my home life and my time with my daughter is well aligned, and I'm there for every dance practice, and I'm not that mom running through the door 5 minutes late to pick her up from an extracurricular. But that's reality. I drop the ball every day. However, I try and keep all the balls up in the air as much as I can. But there is no such thing as having everything in balance. Sometimes my work sort of efficiency is at its best. So what you realize is that there are going to be highs and lows, and that's just the journey of life. And accepting that allows you to remove that pressure on yourself to try and get it right. Sometimes what we see online or through social media sets this perception that everybody has it and that you don't, and that you might be doing something wrong. And the reality is, when you actually have these real conversations, you start to connect with one another, because it really is about the challenges. We do our best. We learn from one another. Nicole and I learn from one another. We keep each other in check. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I didn't go to the gym, did you? And if she says she did, I'm heading out at lunch to hit the gym, right? So I can check in with her later in the day and say, guess what? I just did it, right? So you realize that you do your best, or, you know, she'll be having dinner and she tries to get that right. I never do. But when she's doing it, I'm like, hey, see, do you want to like throw some spaghetti together? So, you know, I think we keep each other in check. We try to keep each other on that same sort of track, not losing sight of what's most important, because I think we need to remember why we do what we do, and that life is precious. Time has a way of flying, especially the older we get, I find. So it's so important to not lose focus on the fact that this is our life. It's not a destination. Enjoy every day, the ups, the downs, just embrace it. And we're having a lot of fun together doing that.
And I think that's exactly it. You nailed it. It's the acceptance of it, right? Kind of going back to that, you know, joke about the whole trying to control everything. You've seen me kind of, you know, almost at my lowest, so to speak, where, you know, I had my son right at the start of the pandemic, and, you know, you're trying to put 100%
also
in
he's
your
2.
He's just turned 3. Yeah, he was born like in January 29th, so right before. But you know, you're trying to be 100% and be the best you can be for your business, for each other. The mom and the mom guilt is a real thing. You know, being self-employed,
we're gonna touch on that too.
Not having, you know, mat leave and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the thing, is just finally accepting that you like you can't be 100% all the time for everything. And, you know, especially still trying to find time for yourself and do that, right? Because then you struggle, and you know, she holds me accountable to this all the time too, where it's like, I'm not a bad mom, or I'm not a, you know, bad partner if I prioritize myself and don't take that call because I want to go get a workout, or whatever the case is, right? It's so important, and just accepting that. So for me, it's the little things, and I may totally be judged for this, but I treat it like it's my work schedule, right? So if you look at my schedule, and we do this too, I have to schedule in, you know, no calls, you know, something for my son, or whatever the case is, workout time. But it's the only way it works for me, and it's the only way I'll actually adhere to it, right? Because you wake up in the morning, you look at what the plan is, and you're like, okay, no. And even our assistants or our support team, no, we time block, and you live by that. And for me, it works. So maybe it's only a half an hour that you're making spaghetti together, like Rakhee said, or whatever the case is. But if you can take those small wins throughout the day, I feel better about it. And again, maybe it's not, you know, exactly how I would envision things, but if I can take a little bit of time every day, I feel better and less guilty.
So you guys both just have one child each?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. And so in regards to that, how do you feel like when women are in business and they're doing so well, were you guys scared, like, oh my God, like my career is going to be on pause, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back on track? Like, did that ever come to your mind at all, or struggles with that?
I think that when you become a mother, it changes you to the core. The moment my daughter was born, I had a sense of contentment I had never felt. I had arrived.
Yeah. Oh, this beautiful.
However, it changes you. So you look in the mirror and you don't necessarily see that same person staring back at you anymore. So there was a period of self-discovery, and I think it's important to acknowledge that. However, I don't agree that it limits you. I don't believe in that. I believe that it can actually do the opposite. I know that my Sia is the foundation and the heart of my why as to why Mortgage Savvy exists. So she is the heart and soul of the brokerage and the brand. It's to show her that she can go out there and the world is really hers to take, and she can create whatever she wants from it. So I think that motherhood is obviously has its challenges, and Nicole and I will both attest to that, and she'll share her story as well. But I think we need to change that. I think we need to empower women and stop focusing on the excuses and focus on the empowerment and the opportunity that it does bring, because it is a gift to be challenged to rediscover yourself.
Exactly.
Very well put.
To figure out who you want to be and what you want your life to look like. And it's a different sense of drive when you know you're driving success to provide, to create a life for, this little life that you've brought into the world.
Yeah.
So I look at it as purpose. I kind of steer away from the whole feminist sort of movement, because I think life, if you focus on your passion, focus on discovering your unique ability, go through a period of self-discovery, continue that journey. We need to, otherwise we stop learning, we stop developing. Obstacles and challenges are presented to us because they're opportunities to level up and to grow. And motherhood is just that, but it also gives you this reward and this sense of satisfaction that nothing else in life brings.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
I knew I wanted to be a mom.
But it's so true, and honestly, I couldn't have said it better. And it's if anything, I think it even if you have that innate sort of hustle and grind, and as a woman, it fuels you that much more, but again, I love that you touched on like self-discovery and figuring it out, because honestly, that was probably the biggest challenge I had, is that nobody ever talks about that in motherhood, right? That you almost lose yourself at some point, or you're trying to rediscover yourself and figure it out, because sure, there's still parts of you that are still there, it's never going to change, but now you're this mom, and now you have all this other responsibility and obligation. So for me, it definitely fueled me to want to do more, and I was so much more hungry to do that. I'm somebody who's naturally fueled by wanting to do for others, so I'm already naturally motivated by wanting to be the best I can for her, and probably everybody else in the world, but especially for those that I love, right? So with my son, that was my fuel. I think the biggest struggle was, again, that self-discovery, figuring it out. I knew how I would have done it prior to my son, but now I got to figure out how to do it with this person, and how I am now. So you're doing that discovery, and you're trying to take on the world at the same time. And I think we both genuinely believe that we can take on the world, because she's definitely kind of taught me that, but it's figuring it out along the way, right? But I think hands down, it motivated me to want to be the best that I can for myself, yes, but for him, for my son, and to it's that give them everything that you didn't necessarily have, and that taking on the world for them as well.
Now, would you say it's harder to build wealth as a woman?
No, absolutely not. I defy that. It enrages me.
Yeah.
I was literally going to say, I'll let her.
We like to ask some spicy questions.
Not.
We keep it real. Some people think that.
It's not. And I think that's where we need to debunk that myth. It's a myth. If you believe it, it's going to limit you. We've proven otherwise. I take it upon myself to empower men and women to take ownership of their finances, to live a life by design. I practice that in my day-to-day living, but our impact from when I started Mortgage Savvy was having that impact on people's lives. That image that I got of a child opening a door to a home, and that parent messaging back and saying this is not only their university fund, but it will also hopefully pay for their wedding.
Wow.
And that to me is empowering, and helping individuals. I've helped in couples go through difficult situations such as divorces, take assets, have to make divisions of assets, and then take and rebuild. And I've done that on both sides, for men and for women. And I think there's ample opportunity. I think we need to move away from these thoughts of, opportunities being limited because of our sex. I think that women have the ability, with the right support, to create a life by design, and there are wealth building strategies, and that's why we're here.
It's so true, and I think that's one of the things that differentiate us the most, is that it's we always say, and you often say this, we're wealth builders, we're financial coaches to help you. I think one of the things that fueled me the most is being able to actually help, like watching you in the very beginning when I started, again in the background more of an operations, just watching you coach people, you know, families coming and sitting on your couch where you're helping them, like, and it's this is where, you know, the passion comes in, because it's such a beautiful thing to see. And honestly, that is where it fueled me to actually want to be part of this with her, right? Like, again, I had a very different sort of, you know, upbringing and stuff, but I remember, I take it back to, you know, you kind of have this innate belief that, oh, certain things are not possible and all these kinds of things. And again, it's mindset, right? So if we can help these clients, and we, like, you know, refer to them as family sometimes, to actually believe that and transfer that energy and transfer that knowledge to say, yes, you can. Don't come to me and say you can't. You can. And help them and coach them. I think that's the most rewarding, you know, feeling ever.
Beautiful. So I have a question too that I feel like
Lots of questions.
Yeah, I have lots of questions. I want to know. So obviously you guys are beautiful. You know, you guys are women. You guys are killing it. How has your experience been, honestly, with dealing with like men in the industry? And like, maybe, I don't know if this has happened to you or not, but I know, like, just looking at research and things like that, there's a lot of women who, you know, men try to cross boundaries, or like, you know, you close a deal and they want to take you on a date. What's been your experience? I want to hear it.
Give us the tea.
I will have to say that I am fortunate that when I started the brokerage, I earned the trust. I can kill it with a spreadsheet. I can break the box on lending guidelines, so I can carry my own. So I do feel that, although, yes, you're absolutely correct, there have been moments where both have been in situations. I'm very much an old school girl with old school values. And I've been in situations, but I will say, for the most part, once you can prove yourself based on your skill set, you earn respect. And we've been fortunate enough to have earned that respect because we've had key realtor partners and key clients support us. That's resulted in volumes of business that have given us a platform of really just being viewed as industry sort of matter experts. And I think that has created some boundaries. Not to say that when I'm speaking to other fellow agents, I do hear that on an ongoing basis, that it is something. So I am acknowledging that it does exist. I think we've been very, you know, key on ensuring that we level up. We set those boundaries. We're very clear. We're friendly in our communication, but we keep those boundaries in place.
Exactly. And I think that is where setting those expectations from the very beginning, I would agree with you. I think coming from the corporate world, that's a whole other story. I think that's something where, you know, you have to deal with, you know, my Bay Street days. I could, you know, stories for days. But when you, like Rakhee said, when you're setting that expectation and you're earning that respect, and I'm really fortunate because I think even coming into this, I almost naturally had that just by association. So I was, you know, thankful in that sense. But again, I think it's just really, not to say putting your foot down, but again, having that presence to be able to say, okay, hey, and showing and earning that respect. I think it just naturally kind of comes with that. So I think we're probably a little bit more fortunate than maybe some others, but I would agree. Would
you think that it would be different if you guys were, let's say, if you were new in the industry, do you think that it would be different?
Maybe. I think, again, it'll come down to setting those expectations. So, you know, keeping it real, you know, you're attractive women, you know, there's of course probably gonna, you know, be attempts to cross those boundaries and things like that. It's actually reminding me of something that you posted a while back too, where
but I can tell you stories.
Yes, but again, like to Rakhee's point, you know, you can, you know, entertain as long as it's respected in the sense of showing them that, sure, you may have, you know, kind of communicated with me initially because, you know, there's an attraction there, but when we pull out our spreadsheets and we pull out our you know, our game, so to speak, in the sense of how well we can do what we do, it just naturally, that kind of almost falls off the table because now that attraction is, oh my gosh, they're really good at what they do, right? And it just, that's so much more important for anybody who's, you know, naturally wanting to succeed and do well in business. That's going to be way more attractive than, hey, she's cute and, you know, kind of let's bypass that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Would you say that it's important to have a significant other that supports your business building? What has your experience been with men in that regard?
So in full transparency, I will say that I married my best friend and the love of my life when I did. However, you grow over time, and I married a very much an alpha man that could provide for me. And my girlfriend says it best, and she said this to me last week. She's like, you probably need a man in the bedroom and as a companion, but you definitely don't need one in the boardroom. Yeah. Because that's never going to work. And she was accurate. You know, she was very close to both of us. She's a senior advisor at a large institutional and sort of captured it perfectly. I've very much grown, and I think it's important. And my dad describes it perfectly, and I wish I go back and take that advice to heart. Yeah. But they say hindsight's always 20/20. Yeah. But he had said to me, you know, you've met the one when you're both running in your individual lanes, but running side by side allows you to get there that much faster.
Wow.
And he nailed it. Yeah. He absolutely nailed it, because I think it's so important to understand that love is there. However, it changes. It takes on a different form when you're in a relationship and you have a family and you're providing. It is important that you have, and we're constantly growing and challenging ourselves to dream more. And I think that's so important. That's how you manifest. But as part of that, I think it's so important to align yourself with somebody or a partner that is aligned to kind of get to their own destination, and where there is those synergies where you feel that you can support each other. The picture at the end doesn't need to look the same. I think that's important to acknowledge as well. You need to keep life interesting.
Exactly. I feel like Nicole's just so much to say.
No,
I'm like, yes, give it to me. Tell me.
Touchy subjects, but no, I agree completely, and I'm a firm believer that you can truly love someone wholeheartedly, and that doesn't even necessarily mean that you need to be with them. And I think that, you know, you asked about growth and support, and I think that is key. But to go one step further, you have to grow at the same pace, right? So and Rakhee kind of touched on this in terms of, you know, sure, you can be in your own lane, but if you do it together, you'll get there faster, right? Because if you know, you're here when you get together, and then one person, whoever it may be, is kind of doing this and grow, you naturally are almost moving apart because you're not in the same space, right? And it doesn't mean anything's right or wrong. It's just because we have to continue to do us and you know, move forward as a woman or as man. So I think, you know, that's where it becomes a bit of a challenge, right? And I agree with Rakhee. Like, I'm somebody who's happier without the added stress and the disappointment. So if you're in a relationship and that is happening and you guys can't get on the same page, then again, sure, of course you can love, and you can, but sometimes you love from afar, and you know, you have a relationship for the purposes that you need it, and you know, leave it because again, you want it. It's no different than we spoke about, you know, energy and having the right circle around you and the right people. It's no different than, you know, a relationship.
I will also say, though, you know, a partnership is very similar as well. So, you know, I'm going to relate that to Nicole and I, and we both run in separate lanes, but our goal is the same. So our vision at the end is the same. Yeah. We do it very differently. However, I think the other key piece here, and I think I learned this from my sister, is that you have to remove the ego.
Yes.
You have to remove the insecurity. And insecurity becomes, I think, the one deal breaker in most relationships that fall apart. We have to accept one another. We're going to go through periods where I, you know, need to take a little bit of time to do some self-development and growth so I can come back and be myself in my lane. Yeah. And she may be thriving at that time, and I've got to be able to stand back and applaud her. at that moment,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And we've got to be able to call each other out on our shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Without taking it personal and getting upset,
Exactly. Because if we can't say it to each other in a closed room, like we are each other's protectors. We are each other's sort of support. And if you actually do want to make it work, then you're going to need to be honest with each other. Me being kind to her when I don't want to be isn't going to do anything for the relationship.
Exactly.
Or for our future. It doesn't work, but it also is giving ourselves the forgiveness. We're committed. I think it's committing. I come from old school values. Yeah. I'm committed. Yeah. You know, she wants to run, I'm going to follow her.
And honestly, we spoke about this recently too, where we're like, I think the closest I've ever felt to you is when we've like had the biggest fight. Because you're just like, and then you feel really shitty about it after. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then she's like, what do you mean? This was the best thing ever. Because it's so real, it's so raw. And I want to touch on that ego. There's no room for it. There's no room for the jealousy. We see this so much. It's I don't want to go into this whole it's a sex thing, but it is, because we see that a lot more amongst women, I think, than we do with males. Yeah. And
100%.
Like I encountered this, like, we would have never worked if I like, and again, I say this because I love you, but it's genuinely the truth that when I started, like, it's so easy to be beside her and feel like there's no room for anything else, because she has such a big presence, and it's the most amazing thing. And you guys even said it, like, you feel this, and I know she gets uncomfortable. She doesn't like when I talk about this, but it's so true. Yeah. So if I came in there with any sort of, you know, like ego or, you know, we would have never worked, because we have to have this understanding. I know I'm damn good at what I do, but and this is not a bad thing. If we're in a room, it's like the light is going to be here, because it's her energy, and I love it. And I always say, I am her biggest supporter. I'm her biggest fan. But if I felt like, oh my gosh, this means that I'm not, and I'm in my head about it, that would have never worked, right? So that's not a bad thing. We have to understand that there's certain, you know, elements to who I am. I know I'm going to get in trouble for this later, but you know, and because again, there's going to be certain times where she's like, you know what, I need you. You got to go kill this. You got to go do that, and I'll do it. And she's again right by my side, my biggest supporter. But we have to just be comfortable in that and support each other. That I'm like, half the time she's like, no, you got to be with me. I'm like, you don't need me. Go run with it. But you know, and it's so true, because I think a lot of people would have been so intimidated to stand beside you, because it's like, hey, where's their space for me, right? But that's where, again, you have to want to build each other up.
100%. And I think it takes a very unique person and a very giving individual to be willing to take me on, and Nicole is that person. So it's so important for me to say this out loud. I can only take it so far. It's not complete without her.
Like yin and yang.
Yeah.
We always say that
really, but it's so true.
It is.
It's
so
so
we complete each other like that. So you on your own can only do so much.
100%.
And so when I say, what does the future look like? I don't know. We plan on taking over the world. We're going to look different potentially down the line. We don't know what we're going to look like. But I will say that together we bring in that perfect skill set. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had a moment where we just called each other out, because sometimes when we're not working in the same space, when we are connecting, we need to be nice in those moments, right? And so when you're being nice in these moments, you're like, I really don't have more than 10 minutes to chat with her. I can't get into it all. So you push it to the side like you do in a relationship or a marriage. And so we do that. And then on a Sunday, we had it out. And I had the best day ever.
And I felt so bad. I was stressing because it was me who kind of blew up.
Yeah. And it was like, I just had the best day ever, because I'd rather know what's in your heart and your head, because I'll correct you later. But you know, it feels good to like just get it out, because once we can get it out, that's where we grow. Otherwise, you know, I can fake it out there. I'm not going to fake it at
home. Energy doesn't lie.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to. And I think the other part of it too is in terms of, you know, being successful and is finding your own groove, finding what works. Because again, like I went through this period where, again, kind of naturally almost falling into this and realizing this is where I want to be. I had that moment where I'm like, okay, well, my my corporate me doesn't work here. I got to figure out what works here. Then I went through a period of time where I was trying to almost like duplicate her, be her in terms of because she's so successful. I was like, this definitely doesn't work because for me, it wasn't, I'm not natural. It's just very different. And so you have to struggle and say, okay, well, how trust yourself enough to be like, okay, well, let me take all the amazing qualities and pieces from her that I can adapt or adapt rather, and take other elements and find what works for you. It doesn't mean there's more than one way to do something and be successful at it, right? So you can learn without having to imitate, I guess.
We have to step into our own. That's the message, right? Step into your own. The more self-discovery. If you want to get better at what you're doing in life, it means taking time away from it. Sometimes we get so fixated on a goal, right, that we become obsessed with achieving the goal. And I'm very ambitious, so I do that. But I think what it's important to know is anytime I've grown and achieved success is when I step out of it to go through a period of self sort of care and investing in myself and then focusing on going back to the goal, then naturally it comes into place.
Nice. So I have one more question before we get into our sip or spill section. What are some things you guys do to help yourselves level up? So it could be maybe a beauty regimen you have, or like, what do you guys do to help yourselves level up? Or what can other people do?
So I've recently discovered Pilates, and it's a great way
Pilates
to,
princess.
I totally endorse this because it allows you to get silent. There's movement, there's stretching. It allows you breathe properly. You are aware of your body. I think sometimes when we're moving so fast as mothers, as business owners, we forget to feel. It's important to be connected to yourself. And so it allows you to do that. And I think it's important to also wake up in the morning and detach from your phone. It's okay to detach. I think it's important to take time for yourself and not feel guilty for it. That's the one thing we are very different at. She's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going out. She's like, but C just came home from school. I know, I'm going out. I'm getting dressed. I'm out the door. I take time for me. I do that. She's very self-sacrificing, Nicole. She works harder than I can ever commit to for anything. She's the hardest working person I've ever met, but I think I am very mindful of taking time for me, whether it's listening to podcasts, whether it's manifesting, whether it's getting outside and making snow angels, taking off and taking a night out for myself. I'm guilty of taking time for me, and I think that makes me a happier person, which makes me better at life.
Okay. What about you, Nicole?
So she already called me out on this. I suck at the whole self-care thing. No, honestly, it is one of my sort of genuine goals for 2023. I think I said I was going to have a yes year where I'm just going to say yes and do things. So, but for me, honestly, it's simple. I need to blast music and get a good workout in. I'm a little bit different. I actually love and I thrive in martial arts. I used to do a lot of boxing, Muay Thai. I used to teach soca size. I used to do a lot of stuff. So being
you said you used to teach soca?
Soca size, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I love that stuff. So I'm more kind of high impact. I need that. But I'd say my go-to is probably a good like boxing or Muay Thai. If I can get to the actual gym, I will. I have stuff at my house that I do. And if I can just, take that hour when, Kai's gone to school and I'm by myself and I literally blast music and just go, that's me. And it's making the time to do it. So,
I love that. Right? Do you see how this works?
Yeah.
Yes. So she's like yoga, Pilates, like even sometimes she's
and you're like, hey.
yeah, and I'm like, I can, but it's like I go back to years ago when I tried to do these things. I used to be really involved in fitness when I had a little bit more time, and I remember honestly getting kicked out of classes because it was like you need to be quiet and the yoga instructor was like maybe you should try something a little different. And I'm like like so offended, right? But I don't know how to, and this is something I need to work on that you tell me is to just quiet my mind, right? Because I'm good in my own space, but I like a lot of like high impact. So that's something that I think I need to do a little bit more of. It's a yes year, right? So.
I'm very curious. Do you guys hang out every day? Do you keep touch every day, help each other out in like personal lives, or do you keep it straight to partnership in terms of business?
No, she's like my sister. She's
Yeah.
like, but we definitely don't see each other as much as I would like. I think the reason why we got so close to, and our kids are so close, is throughout COVID, I would go over there, a couple times a week. We'd work together. Kids would be running around. It was our, like very happy chaos. But yeah, we definitely talk all the time. And I think it's been better since we've had those kind of, blowouts and things that we told you about, where we just kind of called each other out. Now, like, I don't know, I talk to her more than I talk to anyone.
So I think we know each other at the core. So we've become each other's family.
Yeah.
And so with family, they say you don't pick your family, you're stuck with them for life. So I think that's kind of the philosophy we've taken. We're very different people. I'm out all the time. I try to take her when I can. She likes to like recharge. So we're different being socially, but absolutely we're family.
Oh, I love that. I'm stuck with you.
It's true.
Awesome, ladies. Thanks so much for answering that. We're going to jump into our little game called Sip or Spill. Essentially, we'll ask some spicy questions and some mild questions. If you don't want to answer any of the questions, you would just take a shot.
Of the mystery liquid.
Of the mystery, yeah, liquid. Don't worry, it's all edible, or it's digestible, I should say. But Elphi will start us off with the first question.
Okay, so let me pick a good one.
Starting off hot.
Okay, what was your first impression of each other? Go.
Does it matter who goes first?
No, it doesn't matter.
Go.
I don't even have my answer yet. I remember thinking, and I've told you this, people have often called her this mythical unicorn, where it's almost like this, like, and I remember literally saying to myself, we have a personal connection as well too, and so I kind of knew of her, and then when we finally met, I was literally said to myself, like, is she real? Like, is this, because she's such a I can't explain it, but I literally remember saying to myself, like, oh my gosh, like, this is she for real? That was literally, I think, what I remember in my head. And then I very quickly realized that yes. But I was like, wow, like,
my first impression of Nicole was walking through the door, you feel this energy. So she'll often refer to mine, and I think it's important. It takes growth to understand that she brings a tremendous amount of energy when she walks into a room, and that's exactly what I felt. Strength, power, presence. Those would be the three words that come to mind when she walked through the door. And I was like, I want you, but we weren't ready for each other at that moment. But again, I'm put it out in the universe because of those three words that I knew that that's what I needed. And then I left it to the universe to do the rest, and here we are.
I have to tell you a story because this is just goes to show you who she is, and I just think it's so rare. So we had that encounter, so we met each other, we knew, we kind of kept in touch, and then realized it wasn't the right timing. When it kind of was the right timing, or she had felt the right timing, and I was kind of thinking it was the same thing, we reconnected again, and I had just found out that I was pregnant at the time. So I had it was a hard go at me getting pregnant. It was the best thing to ever happen to me, but it also happened kind of unexpectedly through some challenges. So the timing of it, I remember her saying, like, let's do this is the right timing. We were talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, but it's probably not going to be the best timing because I'm pregnant. And the reason why I want to say this story is because, again, coming from the corporate world, or just in general in business, most people, not even women, it's like people would have been, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? You're probably going to have your hands full. This is not going to be the right time. I swear to you, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I think she was more excited for me than I was. Like, she genuinely was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, she went into, like, I'm getting goosebumps because it's just, we're going to have a crib and like, she had planned it out. She bought stuff before, like, it was incredible. But I realized at that moment, like, this is who I need to be a part of, because for somebody to be like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing, we're going to take on the world now, like, the four of us, kids and all. I was like, wow, like, not even a moment of hesitation or anything. She was like, we got this. This is so exciting. This is the best news ever. And I was like, oh. So I had to share that, because that was very
so sweet.
meaningful moment to me of one of our first moments. Yes.
Love that. Now we've kind of deciphered that, you guys are each other's yin and yangs.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, what would you say is one of Rakhee's weaknesses? And Rakhee, what would you say is one of Nicole's weaknesses?
That's actually easy.
I love that.
You go first then.
She stays in her head. I can't get her out of her head.
That's
I
like
got
me.
her out of her head. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. 2023.
Yeah, she is, and this probably people are going to be like, how is that a bad thing? Her heart, she's too kind, too loving. Like I also, and again, it's the most amazing thing in the world, but it's to the point that like I joke around with her. I tell her like her house could get robbed and the people could come back the next day and be like, hey, I promise I'm not going to take anything. She'd be like, no problem, come on in, I'll make you dinner. Like it's, and again, it's the most amazing quality. But yeah, I just feel like sometimes she just needs to, maybe reel it in a little bit, because I think this is where I get this.
Because not everyone has good intentions, right?
Exactly. And to her point, like again, it's leading with energy and putting that out there. So I know it's hard to kind of find that balance, but I feel like sometimes I just need to protect her a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Has there ever been a moment where you guys didn't want to be partners anymore? Or like kind of were like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing this?
Oh, absolutely. We get into fights and she's like,
I'm out.
We have breakups.
Yeah, but the breakups are like never more than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just in the moment. It's in the heat of it. We want to be authentic and be honest. Yeah, we go through those moments. But where I think the alignment is the moment the emotions are put aside, we're aligned. And if and I think that's what's key to a relationship. You're going to grow. Life's going to throw obstacles at you.
Right.
There are going to be challenges. There are going to be times where we may not completely see things the same way. But in the end, the goal is the same. And if the goal is the same, you're going to be able to reconnect. And I think that's the key piece.
And I think as long as you have that trust with one another, which we do, and you can just, because I know for me sometimes like I'm super stubborn, so sometimes she'll just be like, hello, can you like just hear me and see what I'm saying? And sometimes I can't in that moment because we're so emotional. So again, if we could just trust that that the other person has your back, and then just again when we come together, when emotions have kind of run its course, then we're always
we
aligned.
have each other. We would never hurt each other. We would always have each other's back. And I think the other commitment you need to make when you're in a relationship is it's okay to grow. It's okay to acknowledge that right now we're completely aligned, but I think the one thing we both will give each other is that we will always be honest with each other. Yeah. And our vision is the same. And in the end of the day, I'm going to make mistakes. She's going to make mistakes. We're going to get things wrong. Yeah. We're still trying to figure out what things are going to look like. But the one thing is we're always going to be honest and transparent with each other. Always.
Exactly.
Very good. Now, have you ever been on a date with one of your clients?
No,
never. I've been asked.
Yes.
I'm sure.
I've been asked. Yes. I've never actually dated. I've actually only dated 2 people in my life.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. No way.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. That's what we really want to talk about.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's and for me it hasn't, it's quite possible that we've been out with people that we thought were business meetings that maybe thought had other agendas, but no, all joking aside, for me, no. Right? Again,
we find ourselves in situations where we're like, oh, okay, bye.
So this is we're keeping it real. We're spilling tea, right? So the reason why she's looking at me like that is because, again, going to this super nice, loving, I love everybody in the world type of, because she's such a good-hearted person. I think sometimes she probably doesn't see a lot of.
I feel like that too. Like I feel like people can mistaken like you being so nice or you laughing or just being like a ball of energy as like the wrong way. And I'm like, but I'm just being myself.
Yeah, I'm
you
just
know,
being
and it's
nice.
like,
and again, going back to the fact that there's, you know, never any issues with, you know, boundaries being crossed. It's harmless, right? But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
of
think
course.
there's, you know, probably it's hard, right? You know, there's, you know, we're all attractive women. There's, you know, you're trying to, you know, do business. And again, I think it goes back to, as long as we're, you know, setting those expectations and just showing them what we've got, so to speak, in terms of the business sense of things, then I think it keeps it easy. But yeah, it's and the whole dating world is a whole different story nowadays. So
yeah.
I think but yeah.
So it's a no.
For me, it was a no. Genuinely, yes. For me, I can actually.
Unless I was in a situation like that unknowingly.
yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
no, I can honestly say, like, since I've been in this industry, no.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, before we end our podcast, Magda, if you want to ask one more question, totally up to you.
Actually, just kind of, it's a little extension from the last one. Do you get a lot of guys reaching out through Instagram or social media? I know you guys have a nice social media presence.
Yes, but I don't think it's the fake kind of accounts, like, hey, do you want to not work for the rest of your life and I'll pay you $5,000
Oh my gosh.
month? Those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I get, like, you know, I get those. I'm sure you definitely probably can speak
I
on
do.
that.
Because I feel like I feel like you guys are both very like private, which is good, especially in this industry. So I feel like people may not know that you guys are taken, right?
So I am a single mom that is in a relationship, but I do keep that, you know, private.
Right.
However, yes, we receive that attention. Yes, you get DMs. Yes, you have realtors that will, you know, extend and say, you know, or clients per se, but we handle it professionally. There's no harm in it. In the end of the day, we're humans, so there's no judgment there either. It's usually my response is always with kindness.
Yeah,
my response
it's flattering.
is thank you. It's flattering, and
exactly. And I think the same thing too, like, it's you mentioned it kind of like private too. I think we're both pretty strategic, and because I'm the same, you know, in the same boat. I'm single as well, and so I think if you are, you know, in terms of your Instagram, if you're focusing on the message in terms of whatever it is that you want to send, and you know, your industry, and of course you're being you, but you're not you know, putting that sort of, you know, part of you out there,
right?
Then again, maybe it's kind of always going to be up to sort of somebody else's imagination in terms of what's going on with you, because we're not saying, you know, whether we're single, we're not saying whether we're in relationships necessarily, and so you're just kind of focusing on, you know, you as a person and your business, right? So I think, again, it's sure, you may get, you know, inquiries and things like that, but again, that's natural. And honestly, I wouldn't have any issue with that, I feel like, because nowadays it's so much better to meet people organically anyway, as opposed to just being on, you know, paying for, you know, sites and things like this nowadays. You might as well just, you know, just
go outside, go sit at a bar.
People. Yeah, exactly. Because really, truly, what's different from you being at a restaurant and seeing somebody versus somebody saying, hey, and again, as long as it's, you know, harmless and respectful, I don't think there's any issues with that.
Perfect.
Amazing. Well, before Elphi closes off, obviously viewers and listeners will like to know, where can they find you online? Where can they slide into those DMs? You know what I mean?
Nice little segue into that, like that. Mortgage Savvy.
So we actually have our personal pages as well as the Mortgage Savvy Instagram page. So Mortgage Savvy and Mortgage Savvy Nicole. And mine is just Rakhee Dingra. So those that are looking to find us, they can find us on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay, beautiful. Exactly. And closing out, I want you guys to tell viewers and listeners one thing you would tell your younger self that's just trying to make it.
Go ahead.
Wow, there's so much opportunity.
Yes.
I would say get out of your own way.
Beautiful. Well, it's Meet You at the Top podcast. We'll see you there. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Meet you at the top, yeah. Magda and Elphi on lock, yeah. And they ain't never gonna stop, yeah. Said they gon' meet you at the top. Make sure you tune in and watch if you wanna see us meet you at the top.